Welcome. This is Afya Fix. Thank you for always coming week after week to learn many things about your life, your health. I'm so glad that you always join us. I'm your host, Gladys Ombongi, and I'm delighted to have Dr. Ambrose from the Better Living Hospital with us today.
Hi, and praise God.
Yes, thank you, Dr. And we also have Dr. Eddie Ramirez, who will be joining us all the way from Pennsylvania State in the United States of America. Welcome, Dr.
Hujambo, hujambo.
Yes,
Hatujambo.
karibu sana. So today we want to answer the questions that we have been receiving from you at home. And we'd like to start with the first question, where someone was asking, what are the causes of multiple myeloma? Multiple myeloma is the question. What are the causes, Dr. Eddie?
Very good. You know, that's a really great question because multiple myeloma is actually a very common cause of cancer among Africans. So let me give you this summary of research about it. First of all, we know that before multiple myeloma becomes multiple myeloma, first it becomes something that is called MGUS. And usually MGUS, we find that incidentally, we're doing a blood test and then we find out that somebody has that. For example, in this very interesting study, it was found out that among white people, about 3% of white people will develop this MGUS. But the worrisome part, as published on this paper, is that 2 or 3 times more common among African people. Okay. So this is something that I think that the viewers should really put attention about it. And the sad thing is that once this becomes multiple myeloma, usually there's a survival of about 4 years. So if we want to win the battle against this common disease, we need to understand the cause of the problem, because usually there is no treatment when you develop the multiple myeloma. We need to win this battle at the level of the prevention. In this fascinating study, it was found out that curcumin is one of those key things that can help us in the prevention of this disease. You can see in this study, they took some cells of this cancer, MGUS, and they started multiplying very fast, these cells. But when curcumin was added to this experiment, you can see the line in the bottom, it responded beautifully. The cells didn't continue to increase, but rather started going down. In fact, in this other study, this was actually a randomized control trial, which is the highest standard when you're doing a research. It was found out that 1 out of 3 patients responded really great for 100 milligrams of daily curcumin. I know that many people in Kenya don't like, spices, but curcumin is not something that is spicy. It adds just the color side of things. Compared to the people that were doing placebo, the numbers kept on increasing regarding their multiple myeloma. So in this study, it was determined that curcumin, taking this curcumin may delay the progression from MGUS to multiple myeloma. So especially if you have been diagnosed with this, you better use some of this. Now, let me just finish the question, the following inquiry, where this disease actually comes from. This is a fascinating study, well done study, big population, and it was found out that eating animal products, especially chicken, increases dramatically your risk of this disease. Here it is, citing the article literally, it was found out that chicken meat increases your risk of multiple myeloma. In fact, not only the people that eat it, just the fact that you are around chickens, especially people that are selling the chickens, people that are raising the chickens, that increases dramatically your risk because it is believed the origin of this disease is zoonotic. In other words, it comes from viruses that are in the chickens that affects humans. And to me, this is fascinating because in a book called The Ministry of Healing, if you have not read this book, I recommend you Google that book and get this book. Notice what it says in that book. People are continually eating fresh foods that is filled with tuberculosis and cancerous germs. Tuberculosis, cancer, and other fatal diseases are thus communicated. And also this one, flesh meats constitute the principal article of food upon the tables of some families until their blood is filled with cancerous and scrofulous tumors. And that is exactly what happens when you partake of chicken. In fact, we know very good another risk factor is diet sodas. Avoid that diet sodas. This actually is a study that was published from Harvard University. And finally, another two risk factors is the acrylamides. What are those acrylamides? When you fried things, you create acrylamides. So frying cassava, frying potatoes, or any of those fried foods are not the best foods for you. You are increasing the risk of multiple myeloma, according to this study. Again, fascinated, the same author of Ministry of Healing, she says that pickled foods are not the best foods for you because they give you poor blood, which is the origin of this disease. And that's exactly what the research shows. In this big study from China, it was found out that people that eat brine vegetables and pickles, they increase significantly the risk of multiple myeloma. So as you can see, there are things that we can do. And one of them, as it says here, is to avoid these types of pickle foods. So yeah, if I was you, I would avoid those foods as you decrease the risk of this problem.
Wow, you have really put it so clearly. Chicken, being around chicken, rearing chicken would actually almost expose you, taking chicken, fried stuff, food that is highly fried. And I am just thinking this is a threat to some industry, Yet it's actually, it's true to hear that this can actually be some of the causes of this cancer that is very common in Africa, Daktari.
Correct.
Have you seen these cases in our hospital here?
Yes, they do come in our hospitals. They are not as common because of the numbers that we deal with, because of the specialty we are in. But yes, they do happen, and it's a reality. It's a some of the time we hear some of these diseases and we think they are far off. But yes, multiple myeloma is a common diagnosis of cancer of the blood in this environment. It's also noteworthy to note that we have had an increase in the uptake of fried chicken. Now it is chicken and it's also fried. So it is important that you relate our current lifestyle or our current eating habits with the diseases that we see more and more.
Yes.
It's first it is chicken, secondly it is fried in deep oil.
Of
so
course.
you are kind of increasing the chance.
And the oil is used over and over again.
And I'm told in the market there are methods that they use to keep the same oil burning for longer.
And clearer.
And clearer.
But what Dr. said actually remains in the oil.
It remains in the
free
oil.
the free radicals.
And it's like we are taking poison little at a time. Yes.
Very sad indeed. We are so grateful for that question. Indeed, it's a whole topic of study. Let's look at another question. We get a question from one of our viewers who said, I recently suffered what the doctors told me is called idiopathic transverse myelitis. But I eat a lot of vegetarian food. What may have caused it? Dr. Would you like to take us that before I go to Dr. Eddie?
First, I think I'll put it with a bit of salt in it. That
yes.
Idiopathic means the cause is literally not quite well known, not very well understood. And that means the doctor remains an idiot and the patient is pathetic.
Oh,
There's
really?
No, yeah,
yes.
in terms of the cause. And therefore, in the question in itself, you notice that the actual cause may not have been pinned down. Yes.
Wow. Let's hear what Dr. Eddie has to say about that question as well. Over to you, Dr.
The theory is that virus, bacteria, fungal infections, and parasites are important, possible, specifically what are called the DNA and RNA virus. Among the DNA virus, the most common possible cause of this could be the herpes and the varicella and the cytomegaloviruses, as well as the Epstein-Barr. And among the RNA viruses, the dengue, as you're very well aware there of this type of disease transmitted by mosquito, and the influenza. And one worrisome virus here is the HTLV. HTLV is a virus that potentially is transmitted by the consumption of milk and animal products, specifically beef. So one of the reasons why, we need to be very careful on what we expose ourselves to. Remember the class of microbiology when I was a medical student, we were bringing different things and watching them microscope. And if you bring a piece of meat, actually watch there on the microscope, by eating animal products, we are exposing ourselves to different bacteria and viruses and so forth, increasing the risk. Many to a plant-based diet, we actually decrease the risk of some of these conditions. So yeah, that's what I have to share about this condition.
I think if I may add, you must notice that he has used the word decrease.
Yes.
Decrease the chance. Because then the question was specifically about being a vegetarian, strict vegetarian. It doesn't say, therefore, that you rule it out 100%, but you are better off decreasing the chance as much as you can.
Yes, and you can decrease those chances.
Yes.
Wow, that's a very, very good question. Now, I have a third question from one of our viewers who was asking, how can I get vitamin B12? Because I can only get it from meat, from eggs, or from tuna. So, Dr. Eddie, where would this person get their B12 from? Would you like to take that question?
That's a very good question. And this is the answer. It has to do with the other answer I was giving you. So, vitamin B happens to be the ground. And when, for example, the cow doesn't generate the vitamin B12 by itself. It needs to acquire that vitamin B12. Where does it get it? From the dirt and things that the cow grass. As it pulls the grass from the ground, it actually pulls some of the dirt that is there in the ground, and therefore gets some vitamin B12 from there. In the same way, I was sharing this study during the program in another program, how a vegan group in Iran shocked the researchers because when they went and checked their vitamin B12 levels, their vitamin B12 was actually, normal. And they were like shocked. Why are these people eating vitamin B12 if they're vegan? It was a sect from the Muslims that live in that area of Iran. And it was found out that their hygiene was not good. They were eating things, too dirty. They would get the vegetables and still with some of that dirt, and they would be eating them and so forth. I am not suggesting you do that, okay? Disclaimer, okay? Go ahead and wash your vegetables well. It's not a good idea to be exposing yourself to that dirt, but that's one potential source, but I don't advise you that. If you are going to be switching to a full plant-based diet, you need to find a reliable, and some foods sometimes are fortified, certain soy milks and certain cereals, Graphics and all brand and these types of foods many times are supplemented. You need to read the labels to make sure that they are supplemented. Second source are a little more reliable. If you're gonna switch to a full plant-based, and one of those sources have to be supplements of vitamin B12. Okay, if you're gonna do that, you need to invest in once or twice a 3 to 5 years of reserve of vitamin B12 in your liver. So it's not like if you switch to a plant-based diet, tomorrow you're gonna be deficient. No, it takes years and years and years. Yet a deficiency of vitamin, in fact, is that most deficiencies of vitamin and are taking long-term medications such as omeprazole, ranitidine, and this type of medications that block the acid from the stomach, that impairs the absorption. Also, people that have not treated their stomach very well, the older they get, they have a hard time supplementing that vitamin B12. And the importance of vitamin B12, so you need to have enough of this level of vitamin B12, because if not, you increase the risk of multiple diseases. So the most common cause of vitamin B12 in the clinical practice is actually from people getting older. As the people ages, their their levels of vitamin B12 decrease. This is an article from the American Journal of Clinical. A good source of vitamin B12. Make sure you check, your pharmacy or on, some of the places that they provide, quality products, and find a good source of vitamin B12 if you're going to switch to a full plant-based diet.
Good. That makes it very clear that we cannot necessarily suffer from a lot of deficiencies of B12, Dr.
Yeah, as he has mentioned, the body requirement per day or per hour is very, very low, and the storage is fairly adequate.
Yes.
And the fear should not be one of the driving factors in our mind.
Fear can be a good.
Correct. It would be more
motivator.
Prudent to do the right thing, eat
Yes.
the right thing, live a right lifestyle, than to fear of the consequences. In any event, he has also mentioned that there are supplements which you can always get. So I think one needs to live with the conviction of doing the right thing.
Correct. We're going for a break, and when we will come right back, we will look at some of the questions that we continue to receive from you. So if we've not answered your question, please do not go away. We'll be right back. Welcome back. We are glad you are with us, and I'm glad and delighted to have Dr. Eddie Ramirez all the way from the United States of America, and he's able to join us to answer some of your questions. And with me is Dr. Ambrose from the Better Living Hospital to help us make sure that we address some of your questions. We have another question from one of you who asked, what is the cause of inflammation? Does stress cause inflammation? I'd like to pose this to Dr. Eddie. Is stress and inflammation related? Please take it away. Mm-hmm.
That's actually a very good question. And actually, I wanted to share with the viewers. I just finished writing this book, and actually 4 chapters of this book actually deal with that question. You can find my new book on Amazon. You don't need to ship it all the way from America. Amazon has a new system. They'll actually print it in Kenya, for example, and ship it to you there. Or if you want the Kindle version, you can actually get the Kindle version also from Amazon. Just put the words Pandemic Busters Ramirez, or you can also go to the website pandemicbusters.org if you want more information. And also, I'm going to be sharing a few research items. You can find those research items in parentheses in Francisco Ramirez. My tweets, you can find my Twitter, EddieRDMD. So look at this. I just put this Twitter yesterday, and it increases the risk of Alzheimer's. And if you read in the journal, you will find out that the reason why it increases Alzheimer's risk, dementia, is because not only that one, look at this one that I also put a couple of days ago, how a bad marriage is actually as bad as smoking. Why is a bad marriage as bad as smoking? Because it increases inflammation. The reason why smoking is going to give you a heart attack and so forth is because it's very inflammatory. The reason why this is going to give you very bad problems is because it's inflammatory. And the research is very clear. You know, there's a page I like to use very much to look for scientific articles. It's called Google Scholar. And if you just put the words stress and inflammation, you're going to see study over study over study over study over study demonstrating that relationship between stress and inflammation. And the reason why stress is so inflammatory is that it triggers the same pathway, the same road that bad food gives you inflammation, the same way that not sleeping enough gives you inflammation, the same way that exposing yourself to certain viruses and bacteria gives you inflammation. Stress in your body so that you can end up reacting in the wrong way, and then inflammation goes up. So you can see here sources very well known that stress is definitely a trigger for inflammation. So here's the question. Doctor, what am I going to do? You know, see, the problem is not the stress. The problem is how we react to the stress. And this is my own study. You can find it there on that ResearchGate page that I share with you. We were trying to see the effect of different methods of relaxation on the mental health. And we found out the worst thing you can do is not have a relaxation method. You know, that's very bad. You need to find a way to deal with the stress. But interesting, you know, one of the most promoted methods today is actually Eastern meditation. We found in our study that Eastern meditation is almost as negative in the stress relief effect as not having a relaxation method. So Eastern meditation is not the answer to your problem. In fact, we found out in a study that the two best methods to deal with stress, number one is Bible study, and number two is prayer. And it's what I tell my patients. It's like a boat. You know, every one of us have a boat. That's our body. How we treat our body will determine if our boat will continue to float and give us long life. And the key of this is actually inflammation. See, when you're in your 30s, the diet that you have, how you're handling stress, how much sleep you're missing, having problems with diabetes or pre-diabetes, if you have problems with high blood pressure, you'll start cracking your boats. So when you reach to your 50s, the cracks are visible, and places like your brain start generating these amyloid proteins, which are the precursor of Alzheimer's and dementia. Your arteries in your heart will start building up this plaque that will give you either a heart attack or a stroke in the near future. And once you reach your 60s, many times the water is seeping in your boat, and you're going to end up with that cancer, you're going to end up with that heart disease, you're going to end up with that stroke, you're going to end up with that dementia, and all these things that inflammation has caused. And it's not a matter of bad luck, it's a matter of bad choices. So I am so glad you're watching this program, because you're becoming aware. And one last thing, the famous gene of Alzheimer's, also called the APOE4, is an inflammatory gene. So if you have family that have had Alzheimer's, beware. It means that inflammation acts even higher in your body. So that means that bad food, that lack of sleep, and so forth, they have a much more negative effect on you. So beware of that. Avoid inflammation, your life, and cut your life short.
Wow, I don't want to die soon, so I would like to keep my life going. Dr. What do you have to say about stress? Do you see many of these patients here?
Yes, in fact, some of the presentations of people who have stress-related ailments are presentations that talk about that seem to be inflammation.
Yes.
There is in Swahili they say something like hapa syndrome. They are sick all over. They feel pain
Here,
all
there,
over,
here,
but
there.
they don't quite point out where the pain is. Looking at what Dr. Ramirez has said, it's very clear that inflammatory process is going through their body on almost every part, almost every joint, even in the heart, even in the brain. So they come here with presentations that are not very clear, and they come here with presentations of pain that are also not very clear. But the truth of the matter is, the very basic thing in the background is stress.
Is stress.
Yes.
And so it's true, stress does cause inflammation. And we can actually get rid of that by doing some of the things that Dr. Ramirez has suggested.
Correct.
And we can actually make a very deliberate effort to secure our boats.
Yes.
Your health is really a very personal issue, and you really have to take control of your own health. I would like to just read one last question from one of us who this program has been very encouraging, and these are some of the words that he says. Your program is so encouraging. Pray for me, as well as I have been sick and I've been to hospitals, but I haven't gotten better. And he mentioned that day she or he had a bad day and needed to do some tests, and it was going to cost this person about 9,000 shillings. But because they did not have that money, he was told to just go and get medication. You know, in Kenya, daktari medication can be very costly, and the cost of Medicare is really high. I don't know, what is it that you will tell this person who's very discouraged, cannot afford Medicare? Where do we start? What is it that you see every day?
Thank you. That's a very good and very analytical way of looking at life, which is very useful. Unfortunately, in conventional medicine, the doctors and nurses and medical staff are taught on disease and how to treat disease. Very little of how to prevent disease.
Of course.
There is a bit of it, but very little about how to prevent. So it's important to note that by the time you go to a hospital, by the time you go to a clinic, the basic thing that they will be doing or we will be doing is to find out what is causing you this problem. Now, that is not necessarily cheap. $100, that is about what the same figure that you said in Kenya shillings, $100 is not something you come up with every now and then. And particularly in an environment where the income levels are low. So it might be very expensive to first find out what the problem is. It is therefore important to take your health into your hands. Take your health into your hands. The doctors will manage the disease. The other healthcare workers will manage other aspects, but the basic and the bottom line is that I must take care of my health personally. Even by going to the doctor, you probably will have made that decision and not the doctor coming to you. So it's much easier to get good health by living a lifestyle that is health promoting. You know, the lifestyle that is health promoting.
So we don't encourage the disease to come
in. We don't allow them.
Keep it away as much as possible.
So that you are also most of the time in your productivity. You are able to produce. And if you are able to produce, you probably are able to save. You save from not using it on health, but the little that you will want on health, you will have because you will have produced it. So it makes economic sense to spend in keeping healthy rather than spend in curing.
And keeping disease away.
And keeping the disease away.
Thank you very much. And that's a very important question. You know why? I mean, question and answer as well, what you have just said. I don't know what's the situation over there, Dr. Eddie, in terms of healthcare, the costs. Are they not very expensive? Maybe you can just take a few minutes to tell us about this.
Yeah, I think that this is a problem worldwide. You know, cost of healthcare is increasing, and the challenge that many countries worldwide, you know, I've been to 85 countries, so I've seen this, you know, from different angles. And as you know, bad habits increase among our midst, and as populations age, the number of sick people are so many health systems are overburdened by it. And the budget, you know, that is used for diseases such as diabetes and hypertension and so forth, as the numbers increase, the budget runs out. And this is a worldwide crisis, especially in the, you know, developing countries. This is a big problem. And that's why the best thing that we can do is to take care of our health and start making those preventive steps so that we can decrease the risk of many of these diseases that in the long term cost a lot of money. For example, just diabetes. You're diabetic, you need to take, you know, 1, 2, sometimes multiple medications a day for the rest of your life. I mean, that is a lot of money to be paying for this. While, you know, better choices, you know, taking care of your body weight, watching what you eat, making sure you have enough sleep, and all these good behaviors decrease your risk of you falling into one of these diseases that will cost a lot of money in the long term. So it is always better to prevent than to treat, says the saying.
And that saying is true.
That's very true. Prevention is better than cure. There's an English adage like that. However, I think it's also important to educate the masses.
Yes.
Even that good health might need some little money. So you need to plan for your healthcare financing. And for today, we might not go into details, but it's good to plan for healthcare financing. Join a healthcare financing scheme, either the government sponsored one or private ones, because illnesses do not give notices. So you will not be sick at your best of finances. So it's important to balance, to cushion yourself against
Any
financial
eventuality,
any
yeah.
eventuality. You need to cushion yourself financially. And that also tells me that it is also important that financial institutions, the healthcare financing institutions, should be remembering, because this is where they really go wrong. They should remember that it is cheaper for them to pay for the preventive
Part of health.
than
the
to eventually
curative.
pay for the curative. It might be much more economical or much more profitable to pay for the preventive health care.
It's true, and you mentioned something about training and health and education. Tell us about the upcoming seminar that we are going to have just in a few days, actually 2 weeks.
We are going to have a seminar on between 11th and 18th of July, and it will be held right here at Better Living Hospital.
Yes.
And this will be equipping many of us, those who are healthcare workers and even non-healthcare workers, in managing health lifestyle diseases and managing keeping lifestyle wellness. And I think it is one of the courses that one would require for themselves and for the people around them, because very often when we are sick, we go to the nearest people around us to help us manage our illnesses and our finances. So this will be a good course for anyone. Healthcare workers may find it very close to their heart, but anyone is in a position to train and benefit from it.
And thank you for that. And we are so glad that Dr. Eddie will be one of the trainers in this upcoming seminar. So it's really a great honor to have you, Doctor, and we look forward to having you here in Nairobi in the next few days. So karibu tena.
Asante.
Yes, karibu
There's one
nyumbani.
more trainer that you might need to mention,
Yes.
just to prepare us to welcome them around.
Yes.
Dr. Eddie is much more known around, but
Yes.
there's one more guest.
Yes, we will also have Esther Juarez. She comes from Weimar Institute, where Dr. Eddie has been working in Weimar, and now he has moved to another place in Health Lifestyle Ways. Actually, he's able to explain it better than I do. And we are really delighted to have these trainers. It's really one of those very interesting seminars that happen once in a lifetime. So we
Karibu
really
sana.
all need to be there.
Thank you.
So, and you can actually, what is it that you expect to learn in this seminar? Maybe Dr. Eddie, you can tell us one or two things that this Powered Up Plus seminar is going to actually tell people who will join.
Yeah, we're going to empower you to be, more knowledgeable. Number one, about these interventions, about the things that that you can practically do to prevent many of these, conditions that we have been talking about. We will also be teaching you how to impact your community in a positive way, how to teach these principles in your community. There will also be a section there about how to do health coaching. If you want to motivate somebody to do those positive changes, what are the steps that you can take about that? And also we'll be dealing a little bit with the, theological aspects. All these principles, God gave them to us in his word. So we'll be reviewing, some of those principles and, the etiology, the origin, where did this come from? And, the Bible is way ahead of its time. It was talking about hygiene because before public health authorities were talking about this. It was talking about the principle of circumcision way before, the World Health Organization was promoting this, and many other things, it's way ahead. So we'll be reviewing some of those aspects also. It is a fantastic seminar. You know, I don't go to Africa every day, so take advantage of the fact that, you know, God willing, will be there live in Kenya. So yeah, go ahead and inquire and sign up, as there is a, you know, limited number of spaces.
Yes, I agree. The numbers are actually limited. So for you to register, check the link that is displayed at the bottom of, you know, your screen, and you will be able to sign up. They're very limited because we cannot have everyone on board because of the nature of this seminar. Always, we like to hear from you. We like your questions, and you know, Hope Channel Kenya is the place to always be. So go to our YouTube channel, review, ask your questions, leave them there, call us on the number there, and we'll always respond and answer your questions. Thank you so much, Daktari, for finding time to be with us today.
You're welcome.
And thank you, Dr. Eddie, for making time and always being with us. I've been your host, Gladys Ombonge, and it's goodbye from us. Thank you.